The question from Anson Carter pierced me. After our pre-interview for the piece the former NHL pro turned NBC host is producing for NBC Sports, I knew. It didn't matter. Question was, what words come to mind when you think of August 3rd? Boil August 3rd down to a handful of words? What words on the cutting end of emotion don't come to mind? Anger, pain, loss, conviction, dread, horror, revenge, and all of that before noon. And then we learned why. Then we learned how many. Rinse, repeat, multiply by 10. I had to look away from Carter and stare at the rubber mats around the event center rink where his producer had set up shop. I answered. My voice cracked. Suddenly, I'm thinking about why those cameras were here. Why all the network cameras have been here. It's not the cameras, or those behind them. A camera is one tool, an automatic weapon is another. A mouth, another still. The question is, what's the intent behind the tool? The Rhinos exhibition games against the Mexican junior national team at the end of September had been a project of general manager Corey Heon's months before August 3rd, and to me, worthy of some measure of international attention on their own. Team Mexico assistant Andres de la Garma has a solid reputation as a goaltender coach, and the Rhinos are building a relationship with him as well as the Mexican Hockey Federation. But there's no getting around the why of a national network doing a special on a Tier 2 junior hockey team from El Paso, Texas, or the conviction I felt just by talking about it. You know what? That.
The shot up high and a score!
I don't mean NBC Sports, which is lending its considerable voice to showcase diversity in hockey and the Rhinos' work in creating the exhibitions against Team Mexico. Overnight, those two games had layers of meaning involuntarily dropped on them. Both teams bore that extra weight with pride and respect. NBC Sports came to tell that story. I don't mean Anson Carter, one of hockey's few faces of color, doing admirable work to showcase its others, nor William Douglas, the NHL.com writer who pens the Color of Hockey blog and who Carter credits with the idea of covering the games. I mean that the two-time defending Western States Hockey League champs aren't stuttering as they rep their city, and neither will I. No one in El Paso went begging for those cameras, but if they're here, then El Paso deserves to have its story told, especially by anyone willing to share the good news about this city, rather than using a national spotlight to invent bad news. Within hours of the tragedy, from blood drives to victims' funds to its level-headedness and heart, El Paso showed the world the content of its character. I offered Carter something I found to be a telling contrast between what one lost man thought might be his final grotesque expression and El Paso's reflexive, spontaneous, creative response. A response that shines like the sun next to a dried pea. By the afternoon of August 3rd, the Killer's Hollow Manifesto had been outed. His magnum opus, a 2,000-word screed posted on a website filled with bigots arrogant enough to believe they need to do something to make themselves matter more than other people based on the lie of their culture and skin color. But then came the memorial. Within a day, El Paso transformed the site where that man loosed race hate and violence into a place of love filled with art, music, and color. Along the fence next to the Walmart, mariachis and praise bands alike broke into Amor Eterno over the aroma of votive candles, incense, and flowers, as those so inspired taped, tacked, and propped everything from hastily scrawled posters to original paintings. Overnight, a place that would otherwise bear the scars of racism's dumb bludgeon became a bouquet of human expression, a place of worship, a place of humility and loss in need of that worship. All right next to the Hooters. That, as I explained to Carter, is El Paso, a city with no emotional zoning laws. Tell me that's not diversity and inclusion. We spent around 15 minutes taping the interview. Heon and Rhinos head coach Corey Herman went even longer. As choked up as I was, it was worse for Herman, who got so emotional he had to stop the interview and walk it off. Before the game that night, Hermie told a few of us around the team he was worried he'd come off looking bad. We all shook our heads with wry smiles. No, Hermie, you look human. I'm Duke Keith.